Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me for the happy hour. My name is Dr. Glenna. I'm a mental health therapist with a private practice in Torrance, California, where I specialize in emotional abuse recovery, anxiety-based disorders, and helping people basically just, reshape their lives into the life that they really want to live. I teach the concept of therapy as a lifestyle. It is the idea of addressing your mental health before it becomes mental illness. It is an intentional and concerted effort to focus on five major life areas so that you can have a holistic well-rounded life. Okay. This is the happy hour. Today is Wednesday, April 8th. Thank you very much for joining me. The happy hour is my free weekly wellness webinar. It is intended for informational purposes only. The happy hour is not to be used in lieu of any mental health treatment, of any medication, groups, individual therapy that you are supposed to be attending. The happy hour is to be used for informational purposes only. So we just use the happy hour to learn more information, then we take it back to our therapist and say, I learned something about this. Can we implement this into my plan? So the happy hour is not to be used in lieu of mental health therapy. If you are experiencing any mental health symptoms, please contact your primary care physician, a licensed clinician, or a psychiatrist. This information is just to kind of help you along, give you a little something extra, a little extra boost along the way. All right, I am going to share. There we go. That wasn't too bad today, was it? All right, welcome to the happy hour. Today is Wednesday, April 8th, 2026, and we are going to talk about core beliefs, disrupting the stories that we don't know we are living by. Our core beliefs are those kind of deep down ideas that we have, and we don't even know that our core beliefs are in the driver's seat, right? We think that we're going in this direction, and our core beliefs are taking us in a whole other direction. So let's dive right on in. My name is Dr. Glenna, and I always give a fun fact right here because it's the same mini bio and the same picture. So the fun fact is every single year I buy jelly beans for my kids, and every single year I rebuy the jelly beans because I eat them all before they make it into the Easter basket. So fun fact, this year we were fasting, so I didn't do too much damage, but what are core beliefs? Core beliefs are I don't know why I can't talk today. Core beliefs are deeply held assumptions about yourself, about others, and the world around you. Okay. These are your deeply held beliefs. These are beliefs about what you believe about yourself, your ability, who you are, how you are, why you are. They're beliefs about other people, about all men are this way, all women are that way. Your core beliefs are beliefs about others around you, beliefs about people in positions of authority, positions of like junior positions, people that are in a different position from you, and just the world around you, your beliefs about how the world works, right? Are people inherently good? Does money flow your way? Is the world a safe place? These are your core beliefs. Your core beliefs are formed very early in life. Okay. So something happens and you go to the grocery store and the man at the grocery store said, I'm going to pay for everybody's groceries in the line behind me. So then all of a sudden, a core belief is formed based on an experience, and you say, wow, the world is a good place. People are generous, and it forms your beliefs about the world around you. Okay. Often formed very early in life. Nothing is absolute. Core beliefs can be formed later in life, but often they are formed very early. Okay. Things kind of get shaped around. Your core beliefs are often unconscious. That is what is tricky about them. Your core beliefs, like I mentioned before just a second ago, your core beliefs get in the driver's seat and you don't even realize is that they're driving. You don't even realize that they are pushing things in a certain direction. They are often unconscious beliefs. Okay, unconscious, unseen. You're not even aware that they are there and that they are impacting how you view yourself, what you believe you're capable of, how you view others, how you view the world around you. Your core beliefs are emotionally charged and resistant to change. That does not mean that they cannot change. They can definitely change with awareness, but they are emotionally charged. So when we say this, when you are operating based on your core beliefs and they get challenged, you get triggered. Okay. Or when something happens that taps into a core belief that you have that doesn't feel really good, you get triggered. Okay. Our core beliefs are emotionally charged. So again, we oftentimes we have things where we're like, that's just how I am, that's just my personality, and we don't even realize that's actually not who you are. That's actually not a part of your personality. It's your core beliefs that have been integrated into how you think and how you move, and it is impacting how you move about the world. And they are resistant to change because they are so deeply embedded. And oftentimes, and you guys know, I'm going to get into this in more detail, but the core belief is formed in a vacuum and no one is there to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, that's actually not how this goes, right? I remember I had an instance in college where someone said something to me and it started to sink in and it started to absorb. And I told my roommate within a week, I was like, yeah, this person said such and such. And she immediately dispelled it and was like, they said what? That's not true. And then she gave me concrete examples to show me why what they were saying wasn't true. So it didn't have time to sink in. Core beliefs become resistant to change because something happened, you had an experience, and it did sink in. There was no one there to tell you that that's not the case, that's not true, and thus they become resistant to change later in life. They get further and further down into your psyche, further and further down into your behavior and just the way that you do things. And we tend to hold them as absolute truths. So again, with our core beliefs, we think, no, it just is, right? People with money are obnoxious. It's a truth. We don't challenge it. We don't think any different. We actually look for things that support the idea that we have. So we tend to hold them as absolute truth. So with this perspective, it makes sense as to why we're not aware of our core beliefs, why we're not doing anything to change our core beliefs, and why when they get challenged, they're so emotionally charged. We believe them to be true. They act as filters that shape how we interpret experiences. Okay, so the core beliefs become the filter that shapes how you experience and interpret experiences around you. Core beliefs are like trees. Okay. Core beliefs are like trees. Anytime I describe core beliefs to my clients, this is the illustration that I use. Let's start with the leaves of the tree. Okay. The leaves of the tree are your observable behaviors, your actions, the words that you use, the places that you go, the choices that you make. The leaves of the tree, everybody can see the leaves of the tree, right? Everybody, if you look up and when you see a tree, that's probably one of the first things that you notice. The shape of the leaves. Are they long? Are they, hexagon shaped? The shape of the leaves, the texture, the style, how resistant they are to the wind. The leaves are your observable behaviors, the phone calls that you make, the how fast you get an attitude, how quickly you respond, how patient you are, how impatient you are. The leaves are your observable behaviors, your actions. The trunk of the tree, if you think on a literal tree, we can see the trunk of the tree, and based on what we know about trees and nature, we can infer what the inside of the trunk looks like. Okay, I don't need to chop the tree down to know there's rings on the inside, and the bigger the tree, the bigger the trunk, the thicker it is on the inside. The trunk of your tree, of your core beliefs, these are your thoughts and your beliefs. Okay. I don't need to literally chop into your brain to kind of see what you're thinking and tell what you believe. Because again, your thoughts and your beliefs feed into your observable actions and your behaviors. So I can't see everything that's happening, not very specifically, but I can infer based on your observable actions and your behaviors. Your core beliefs are the roots of the tree. And if you look at this illustration, you see how some roots are closer to the surface, but the other roots go further and further down. And just we all know how roots work. They start out with larger branches, and then the smaller branches, they're smaller and they reach even further. And then, of course, what we know about trees, I am not a horticulturalist, but did I even say it right? Horticulturalist? Anyway, I'm not a plant person, but what we know about trees is that the deeper the roots, the more firm the tree is held into the earth. Okay. The deeper the roots, the harder it is to shake the tree. The harder, I don't know if you've ever tried to remove a tree, but the deeper the roots, the longer it's been there, the more firm the roots are, and the harder it is to uproot it and get it to do something else. Also, you cannot see all of the roots of a tree. You might be able to see something if it has disrupted the earth. You know, sometimes you have a tree that's been there for ages and ages, and the roots of the tree, like in Westchester, the streets of Westchester, the roots of the tree actually break up the concrete, right? Sometimes you can see the roots. The vast majority of the time, when we're looking at trees, you cannot see how deep it goes. But you can tell from the size of the tree. You can tell from the size of the observable behaviors, from the types of actions, from the types of thought processes. You can infer how the core beliefs are actually running the show. Core beliefs are not facts, they are learned conclusions that inform our thoughts and our behaviors. Core beliefs are not facts, they are learned conclusions that inform our thoughts and our behaviors. They get so deep and so strong that you don't even realize it's a thing. And the next thing you know, you are operating based on this belief that is deep down under the surface. So when we think about core beliefs, keep this image in your head, okay? Tree, leaves, observable, trunk, you kind of know it's there, but you can't see all the insides. But underneath the ground and the thing that keeps everything rooted, those are your core beliefs. Common core beliefs. For the purposes of today, core beliefs absolutely can be positive. You can believe that you are capable. You can believe that you're good at math. You can believe that you're a great singer. You can believe that you are a good person, that people in the world are inherently kind. That's one of my core beliefs. I believe that the vast majority of the people in the world are inherently kind and generous and thoughtful, and that there are a handful of people that are just not, right? So you can have, and you do have positive core beliefs. For the sake of today, I want to focus on the negative core beliefs because those are the ones that are disruptive for us. Oftentimes, our positive core beliefs, they function in a way that's positive. Okay. It's our negative core beliefs that tend to hold us back. So these are examples of core beliefs. My lists are never exhaustive. If I don't say something that you know comes up for you, then it is true for you. It just means that I can only have so many slides. Example, I'm too much. I'm too much. And I also want to give you guys some examples without focusing too much on this page of how the thought process feeds into the thoughts. I mean, how the belief feeds into your thoughts, into the behaviors. If I, at my deep down level, believe I'm too much, then my thought process is always going to be looking for people and things that confirm that I am too much. Also, if I believe I'm too much, I need too much, I'm too loud, I'm too needy, if I believe this about myself, then my actions are going to be things that try to counter that. I don't want to be too much. I want to be loved. And if I believe being too much is a problem, I'm going to shrink myself. I'm going to have a fear of being seen. I'm going to always be worried about, overly concerned about whether or not someone finds me too much. I'm not enough. Nothing that I do is enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. So now I'm always going to operate from a place of lack. And I'm going to look for, it's called confirmation bias, when you start to look for things in the world that confirm the feeling that you have about yourself. And unfortunately, you glaze right on over the evidence that proves that that core belief is actually wrong. I have to earn love. This one is dangerous because I have to earn love will put you in situations where you are only operating, the relational dynamic only functions when you have to earn love. So now, when someone is trying to give you love freely, you don't even realize you will frustrate the situation because you don't believe that you deserve love freely. If your belief is that you're supposed to earn it, you will sabotage the situation to put everybody back at square one so that now I have to dig my way out and earn it. You will also only entertain friends, family, loved ones, romantic partners that require you to earn their love. You will literally, you'll do it unconsciously, subconsciously. You will put yourself in situations that confirm this core belief. I have to earn love. The world is dangerous. If you believe that the world is dangerous, you ain't going to just if I'm dating myself, but I love the Wiz. You ain't gonna never go nowhere south of 125th Street. You will never leave. You will never experience the world. You'll never, get on a plane, leave the country, try a new school, try a new food. If you believe that the world is dangerous, then you operate from a place of it's not safe. It's not safe to interact with the world. It's not safe to try new things. It's not safe to trust that, it might be all right out there. Men, women can't be trusted. Can't trust women. And I mean, as a woman saying you can't trust women, and now you can't figure out why you don't have the female friend group that you would really like to have. But if your core belief is that women can't be trusted, you're going to operate based on that. Okay, same thing. If you're a woman and you're like, men can't be trusted, you will operate based on that. You will unconsciously engage with men that actually cannot be trusted. They have done nothing to prove themselves to be trustworthy. You will unconsciously interact with them because it will confirm your internal core belief. Same thing. If you're a guy that thinks that other men can't be trusted and you wonder why, you don't have the guy friend group, you don't have the Saturday morning pickup games, you don't have the Wednesday night poker nights, you can't figure out why you don't have the bros that you can just kind of talk with about things that are very specific to men because you believe at a core level that men can't be trusted and you're operating based on that premise. Same thing. If you're a guy that thinks that women can't be trusted, you will unconsciously engage with women that surely cannot be trusted. And that will always be the examples that you draw from if you even try to counter the thought process. It's like, no, 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 no. Because Sally and Lucy and Jane, they all couldn't be trusted. I'm worthless. I'm worthless. The idea that you are not worth anything. You're not worth effort. You're not worth attention. You're not worth people really trying or contributing positively towards your interest and your needs. You will operate from that place. I mean, and this is like sometimes your house will reflect it, right? I'm not worth much. So then all of a sudden everything in your house is broken and secondhand and you won't clean up. It's like, well, if you feel worthless deep down on the inside, your actions will reflect it. I am inadequate. I am inadequate. If that is your core belief, you will operate from a place of deficit at all times. You will never feel like I'm enough. You will never feel good enough. You will always operate from a place of inadequacy. It's not safe to show emotion. Anytime you are about to show emotion, you'll shut down. Anytime someone else shows emotion and vulnerability, you will shut them down. You'll shut down, like, no, oh my goodness, that's too much. Stop crying. And you'll shut down yourself and you will shut them down. Oh my God, you do too much. It's not that serious. Like, just cut it out. Okay. If you at a deep down level believe it's not safe to show emotion, you will avoid and shut down any opportunities to do so. No one understands me. I'm just so unique and I'm so odd and so peculiar that no one understands me. No one knows how I'm feeling and no one is slowing down to do it. You will hyper focus. You won't even realize you're doing it on people that are committed to misunderstanding you. And when someone tries to say, "Well, explain it to me." Well, what do you mean? No, 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 you just don't understand. And you won't even give people the opportunity to try to understand you. I am alone. I am alone. If you struggled with feeling lonely as a child, then it starts to reinforce this belief that I am alone. It's a part of your identity, it's a part of your entire existence. When people try to show you that they're there, when people try to partner with you, friends, roommates, romantic partners, you separate yourself and you'll make it so that you will reposition yourself so that you are in fact, alone and operating independently. You will miss and glaze over coworkers that are inviting you out, friends that are inviting you to their birthday parties because they want your presence, they want your sense of humor, they want you to be around. But your core belief has you thinking that you are alone and you won't do anything to challenge that. I am damaged. I am damaged. Oftentimes, people that have suffered abuse, especially sexual abuse, suffer with I am damaged. They believe that themselves as a person is broken and damaged. And again, you'll operate from that place. I have to know the answers. I have to know the answers. If you were a kid and you asked questions and people treated you like you were stupid for asking, how do you do this? Oh my gosh, why don't you know how to do that? It reinforces the idea that the only way to stay emotionally safe and to secure your place is to already know. Oh, I know. When the reality is none of us already know. That's just even more, sometimes we're supposed to know. We don't even know. But in thinking I have to know the answer will cripple you every single time. Um, Not knowing is not safe. Okay. Not knowing is not safe. Another way to phrase it is if I don't know, it's dangerous. If I don't know, it's dangerous. What do? Become a know-it-all. Because we are scared to be vulnerable enough to say, oh, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure. I've never reached this point in my career, in parenthood, in home ownership. I don't know. And we're scared to have to admit that. I never get it right. I never get it right. If you're operating from that perspective, again, you will unconsciously look for opportunities that reinforce that. You will or every time that you hit the mark, hit the bullseye, your boss is like, great presentation. Your coworkers are like, thank you so much for taking care of that project. You did a great job. But you will only see the ways that you didn't. I am powerless. I am powerless. I am powerless will have you in relational situations, in job situations where you literally feel like there's nothing that you can do. Everything is out of your control. Nothing is up to you. And you, again, you will seek out opportunities that support that, and you will stay in positions that make you feel powerless. You will allow others to say and do things that make you feel powerless. And I deserve to be miserable. If your understanding of the world, your understanding of your experience of the world is that you are miserable, it won't even dawn on you like, no, I deserve to be happy. And you won't look for exits, that would put you in a better or a different situation. Now, these are common core beliefs, but my lists are never exhaustive. So if there's something that's coming up for you, again, I always tell you guys, I'm currently accepting new clients. I would love to work with you if you're here in the state of California. And core beliefs is absolutely something that we can work on. Five dynamics of core beliefs. They operate automatically. Okay. You don't have to think them. They just run in the background. So remember, like the picture, you don't have to dig up the roots to know that they're there. You don't have to do that. The roots are actually looking for water sources and nutrients and things like that. It's literally feeding everything else that you do. It's feeding your thoughts, it's feeding your the leaves, it's feeding your actions. So you don't have to consciously be like, am I worthless? No, I am. I am worthless. And then take action. It just is running in the background and it operates automatically. Okay. Your thoughts and your actions will reflect untreated, unaddressed core beliefs. They filter your perception. So you, again, like I said, you notice evidence that confirms them, confirmation bias. You only hyper focus on the little things. Someone can say, someone can apologize to you and say, there is a daddy long leg in my office. We have to burn it down in here. That is the only solution. I'm sorry, guys. There's a spider in here. I gotta set the whole place on fire. Okay. I'll get to that. I'll blowtorch it as soon as this is over. You will ignore a person trying to apologize and trying to be kind to you, and you are hyper fixate on the one thing that they said because your core belief doesn't want to be disrupted. So you have to look at the one thing that they said that enforces the core belief that you have. Okay. They filter your perception of the world. They shape your behavior. You act in ways that reinforce the core beliefs. Again, if they're happening automatically and they filter your perception, they shape what you do. If I'm operating where I believe that, I'm looking at the spider again, sorry guys. If I'm operating where I believe that people are inherently good and generous, then when I interact with people, I'm smiling at them and, I'm holding doors open and I'm making small talk because people are kind. But if I'm operating from a place of the world is dangerous, then I'm not going to smile and I'm going to be very, very guarded and extra careful. And when someone tries to do something nice, I'm like, no, thank you. I don't need it. They shape your behavior in ways that you're not even conscious of. And they become self-fulfilling because the belief influences outcomes, which reinforce the belief. The belief that the world is dangerous will make you hyperfixate on the handful of dangerous people and things that are in the world. And then when it happens, it reinforces the belief. I had a conversation the other day with a client that had concerns about flying and planes going down. How many plane crashes were there last year? She said, well, about five. And so we Googled really quick how many planes go in the air domestically every day. It's about 40,000 planes that go in the air every single day. If you hyperfixate on the five that went down in first quarter, then it reinforces the belief that this is not safe. Travel is not safe. And it makes you ignore the other 40,000 planes that went up every single day that didn't go down. And they resist contradiction. Even positive experiences are dismissed or minimalized. So something good can happen, but your brain will somehow excuse, no, that was the exception. Well, that person was nice. No, they were only nice because I had on pink and they liked my pink sweater. They were only nice because my kids were with me and my kids are really nice. They were only nice because they work here and they're getting paid to be nice. Okay, so they resist contradiction, and again, they hyperfixate on the negative perception that reinforces the core beliefs. Where do they come from? Okay, where do they? What's the origin? My lists are never exhaustive. Early attachment experiences, caregiver relationship shapes your beliefs about your worth, your safety, love. An example is inconsistent care means I have to earn love. Every human has an attachment style. Every human has a desire to attach to other humans. That is normal. That is healthy. That is how we as humankind keep moving forward as a people, as a race, as a animal, as a I'm getting in my biology back, but you get what I mean. This is how we continue life, okay? By community, attaching to other people, pooling our resources together. I teach mental health, somebody else makes shoes, somebody else makes barbecue, okay? So this is how the world goes around. This is how it works. So you are supposed to desire to be closely attached to others. That's normal. If your primary caregiver, oftentimes it's your biological mother, biological father, in various circumstances, it is extended people. If your primary caregiver, and I'm talking about from the day you were born, probably until, I don't know, maybe teen years, all of that is really, really shaped, gave inconsistent messages, inconsistent care. You needed new shoes because you grew, because that's what children do, and your caregiver made you feel like you were a burden for needing new shoes or a new winter coat. You said that you don't like green peas, and your caregiver made you feel like you were ungrateful. Like there's people starving in such and such, and here you are declining food. So then it taught you something about your worth. It taught you something about your ability to speak up for yourself and to advocate for yourself. Um, and especially inconsistent love. And inconsistent love looks like a caregiver. Sometimes they work a lot. Sometimes they were incarcerated. Sometimes they were discharged from the military, and they just couldn't be present. Sometimes it's a person that is struggling with their own mental health, their own relational issues, substance abuse issues, or just the fact that it's really expensive and having to work a lot of hours, and it just seems like money just kind of flows through your hands when it comes time to pay bills. So that inconsistent love, or like if you made your parent angry and then they withdrew their love and affection or became very verbally or physically abusive, it teaches you different messages. For example, I have to earn love. You start to learn that it doesn't just come to me. It doesn't flow freely. It doesn't, like, my parents don't seem to have unconditional love, or my primary caregiver doesn't seem to have unconditional love. So I need to actively do something to secure their love. Again, then it goes into, I'm not enough and I'm inadequate and I'm worthless and so on and so forth. Also, repeated emotional experiences, okay? Patterns of behavior, not one-time events, but patterns of behavior. These things shape your beliefs. This also includes repeat failure. Okay, we talked about cognitive distortions in a previous happy hour, but these things solidify. The ideas that you have about yourself and about how the world works, they start to solidify. An example is repeat criticism teaches you, I'm not enough. Okay, if you're not a great test taker, and every time you go to take a test in math, you do, poorly, and you struggle in that area, that repeat failure will teach you at your core level, you're not good at math. So then when you go to do basic math things, when you go to balance your checkbook, if people still do that, or, count money, you have anxiety around it, or you find ways to avoid it because at your core level, you believe, based on repeat experiences, that this is just not something that you're good at. It's just not really who you are. Repeat experiences also include things like bullying, um, bullying on the playground, bullying for something very specific, bullying for skin color, hair, size, teeth, bullying for something that you can't get away from. Right? Maybe you have a birthmark or something that's unusual, and every single kid at every single school, at every single playground felt the need to point it out, right? Repeat emotional experiences will slide down into your roots and into your core beliefs. Because you start to think, well, if everybody feels like this, it must be true. And then it's something that becomes, again, resistant to change. Internalized voices. Caregivers, authority figures, environments become internal narratives. The way you were spoken to becomes the way that you speak to yourself. Oftentimes with my clients, they'll say something and I can tell it sounds like a regurgitated phrase from somebody else. And I'll stop them and say, whose voice is that? Because that actually doesn't sound like your own thought. It doesn't sound like your own voice or your sentiment. Whose voice is that? And when we sit long enough, we can track it back. We can say, oh, it's that one teacher, in elementary school that was just was always on a tyrant. We can say, oh, my mother was very negative, when it came to body size, or very strict when it came to intelligence and getting good grades, or, my father was very abusive, or, very, very influential when it came to A, B, and C. So either the internalized voices, the things that you hear seep down into your roots and you start to accept it as truth. You start to accept it as this is just how it is. This is why it's really important to verbally affirm your kids, like, or tell them like you're intelligent and pick things that are true. Don't give them fluff. But because those external voices, the external messages, and I mean literal voices, the words that people say, and then also kind of the messages that people receive indirectly, it seeps into your core belief and it just becomes something that you just believe to be true. I don't appreciate how none of you guys came to help me blowtorch this spider in my office, but it's okay. Also, adaptation for survival. Where do core beliefs come from? One of the things that they come from is adaptation for survival. Core beliefs often develop as protective strategies. For example, I'm too much, so let me shrink so that I stay connected. When we say adaptation for survival, again, all humans are wired for attachment. It is normal, it is natural, it doesn't make you needy, it makes you normal and healthy. Humans that do not desire healthy attachment with others, there's probably something going on that is unhealthy. It is normal, it is natural to desire the warmth of other people, the connection with community, to have close friends, people that you can confide in. It is normal and natural to desire emotional intimacy with other human beings. If you have a core belief about who you are and it's something that might someone else might not like, it might disrupt your ability to access um, connection. It might disrupt your ability to access community. Okay. If I'm too much in this room, then the group of girls in the dorms, they might not like me, and then I might not have friends. And if I have to be isolated, that's very painful. So, according to my core belief, I need to tone it down. I can't be exactly who I am. Okay. So, our core beliefs get shaped by the idea that we might threaten our ability to be a part of a community and stay connected to other people. So, then we start to develop this core belief, and then our actions start to reflect as a result of it. Also, unprocessed emotional experiences. Trauma, all events are neutral. It only becomes trauma when it is unprocessed, and just kind of unchecked. Everything that happens does not have to be traumatic. For years and years, I've always used the same example that, again, I grew up in Long Beach, said it earlier today, West West. And I've been to parties where, it got a little active. And that didn't scare me. By the grace of God, me and my sister, we had good instincts and we got on out of there when things happen. But I told the story to a coworker some years ago about leaving a party because, it got interesting. And the coworker was like, oh my God, that sounds terrifying. Okay. Events in and of themselves are neutral. It is when we attach meaning to the event that now it becomes traumatic or it becomes heavy. If something happened and it was traumatic for you, or it was heavy for you and it is unprocessed and unchecked, it does seep into your core beliefs. Using the same example, I went to a party that got interesting. If for me, that was impactful for me, it could have created a core belief that parties are dangerous. The people that go to parties are dangerous. The world is not a safe place. And then I could have operated as such. Okay. So, unprocessed emotional experiences. You had a teacher that screamed at you and mistreated you, and you didn't have anyone to talk to about it. You didn't have anyone to decompress about what that experience was like. All of a sudden, it becomes embedded in your identity as a core beliefs. Authority figures are whatever they say is true about me. If the teacher says I'm dumb, then I'm dumb. Unresolved shame, unresolved rejection, unresolved neglect, it festers and it falls into and seeps into the idea that you have about yourself. Childhood neglect, trauma, and neglect. Deep emotional wounds create a narrative around worth and inherent value. Neglect can be, I think when we think of neglect, we think of the most obvious, the biggies, like not feeding a child, not clothing a child, not giving them food, clothing, and shelter, right? We think of that as neglect. But emotional neglect is very impactful in ways that it's hard to even explain, because a person that is emotionally neglected, now they believe that they're not worthy of love. They believe that they have to earn love. They believe that when it's supposed to come from a person because of their title, it doesn't. And now I have to go out and I have to seek love out. Okay, so various forms of childhood trauma and neglect can absolutely create lots of narrative core beliefs because if you're being emotionally neglected by a parent, they're most certainly not tapping you on the shoulder to say, hey, come talk to me about that. What are your thoughts around that? And how do you feel? How do they show up in adulthood? Relationship patterns, both romantic and platonic. You will find yourself disrupting relationships, being overly clingy in certain relationships. The belief that you have about yourself will immediately impact coworkers. Again, coworkers, people in position of authority, bosses, teachers. It will impact your idea of how you show up in that relationship, of your worth and what your role is and what you're supposed to be doing to secure love and affection. Um, People who over function, you might have a core belief around, well, I'm just a helping person. And it's like, no, you have a core belief around you only being valued if you are working. Okay, so now we're over functioning, we're overdoing things because we want to make sure that we get external validation or that we have something in our repertoire that we can stand on that says, I am valuable. I did this, and this. You overfunction in romantic relationships, overfunction in your friendships. You are the friend that is spending money left and right. You buy everybody's birthday cake. You're showing up to everybody's events. Like you're over functioning because of a core idea that you have about yourself. You have a poor relationship with money. Poor relationship with money. If you have a core belief that you don't deserve nice things, you've never really experienced nice things, I don't care how much money you make, you will make sure that you spend it down so that you can never afford nice things. If you believe that people like you are always in debt, you will get a loan and then just dive right back into another form of debt. Your belief about yourself will inform your relationship with money. Poor health choices. If you have a core belief that impacts what you believe about yourself, your worth, your value, you won't take care of your health. You won't do basic things. You won't drink water. You won't eat fruits and vegetables. You won't take a multivitamin because if you don't really believe that your life is worth it, that the quality of your life is worth it, that your friends and family want you around and not just want you around, but we want you around fully functioning. Okay. We want to be, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, still putting on, all white outfits for the yacht party for everybody's birthday. If you don't believe that you're worthy of that and that you're valuable, you will not make good health choices. Avoidance, avoiding all types of things, avoiding conflict, avoiding opportunities for advancement, avoiding love, avoiding all types of things. Because if you don't believe a certain thing about yourself, or if you do believe a certain thing about yourself, then you'll use avoidance to reinforce it. Anxiety and self-doubt. I mean, if you can imagine just the level of anxiety that goes into trying to manage this belief that's running in the background. You don't even know why it's running the show here. Difficulty receiving love. Again, people can be super nice, super kind. They can say all the things, they can do all the things. But if you have a deep down belief about yourself and your worth, you'll have difficulty receiving it. And emotional triggers. Okay, triggers are unhealed hurt. That's Dr. Glenda's bootleg definition of triggers. Triggers are unhealed hurt. So it'll make it so that you will be emotionally triggered based on your core beliefs. You can't even figure out what's going on. And being triggered is awful. It's very being triggered is way past just being a little upset or being irritated. It almost puts you in a different mindset, in a different state where it's hard to even operate it. Sometimes when people are triggered, it almost feels like a different version of them is holding a remote control and they're just a robot. Like they can't even control what they're doing or saying anymore. Okay. So you don't just have a belief, but you live inside of the belief. So, what we want to do is restructuring and integration. Cognitive restructuring, thinking. Remember your cognitions, your thoughts, those are your cognitions. So, anytime we say cognitive, it has to do with how you think about the world around you. So, what I want you to do is identify the belief. I gave some examples, I've given some examples along the way. And usually, when we start talking about it, it makes the mind start to tinker and be like, well, what beliefs do I have about myself, positively or negatively? So I want you to identify the belief. What is it? Like, oh, I believe that I'm only worthy if I am in action. That's why I'm always doing stuff. Okay. Identify evidence for and against it. So am I only worthy if I'm doing stuff? Well, people do appreciate what I do. Okay, so that's true. But if I'm not doing something, do people still appreciate me? Well, yeah. I showed up to that party empty-handed because I dropped my cake on the sidewalk and I still walked in, right? And they were still okay with me being there. Well, I didn't host such and such's birthday dinner and I was still invited and they still appreciated my presence, right? Identify evidence for, because we're not going to lie to ourselves, but also against it. And then generate alternative thoughts, right? So if I think I'm not enough, well, actually, I have evidence that I'm capable and valued. If I think I'm only valuable if I'm doing something, mm, well, I am loved and I am valuable, even if I'm not taking immediate action, even if I'm not saving people from themselves. Okay. So, this cognitive work is absolutely something. And of course, emotional integration. These are definitely something, things that I do with my clients in therapy. I am accepting new clients if you're in the state of California. The cognitive restructuring, the examples that I gave were very quick. It doesn't always happen that way. Okay. It doesn't always happen where you have one, 60-second conversation with yourself and then boom, it's all alleviated. You have to remember your core beliefs are deep down embedded into your psyche. You've been operating based on these ideas for a very long time. And so it's not as quick as the examples as I just gave, but over the long run, over the long term, these are things that in therapy we can work on together. And then also emotional integration, which is the deeper work. This is where many people get stuck because people don't really want to deal with the uncomfortable emotions. So, emotional integration includes feeling the original emotion. This is where a lot of people get stuck. I do work with my clients where I sit with them and teach them how to actually process the emotions. And every single time we get to the point where I say, okay, now just sit with the emotion. Say, close your eyes, let it flow. They kind of open their eyes and they're like, okay, I sat with it. I'm like, no, not quite. And then having a person with you to encourage you to stick with it, even when it gets a bit uncomfortable, can really help you to actually feel the original emotion. Because all of these things, core beliefs, maladaptive coping skills, cognitive distortions, These are all things that are your body's attempt to get you away from the uncomfortable emotion. But if you can just sit through it and process it, it actually will, then it'll really leave you alone because you've dealt with it. Okay. Also, process your past experiences. So these core beliefs don't come out of nowhere, right? They probably came, oftentimes, your negative core beliefs came from some sort of negative experience. So if you sit down and process those negative experiences instead of letting them just create narratives about yourself and the world around you, then it makes it easier to change the idea. Okay. Because your psyche is holding on to a core belief because it's trying to protect you from some pain that you've actually experienced. And also allowing grief and anger or sadness to just flow. Give yourself room to grieve. Give yourself space to be angry. Sometimes, it's people that we're not supposed to be angry at, right? Like culturally, we say we don't speak ill of the dead, but allowing yourself room and space to be angry at a person that has passed away. It's not going to change how you feel about them. It's not going to make them, suffer because you are upset. But giving yourself room and space to have an authentic experience based on how you really feel will help to unearth some of those core beliefs that you have created. You don't just think your way out of a core belief, you have to feel it too. So it's not as simple as identify the core belief, give evidence, and then create a new idea. That's part of it. But you do also have to process the emotions that created the core belief to begin with. Okay. This is a twofold piece that you do together and over time. Cognitive work changes your thoughts, emotional work changes the internal experience of your thoughts. Again, this is definitely something that you could work on with a therapist, and I am accepting new clients. 10 steps to counter core beliefs. Number one, identify your core beliefs. Okay. Identify what is it? Write it down so that you can be like, oh, that's me. I see it. Notice when it gets activated. Now, this is really important because you have been living life without an awareness that your core belief has been in the driver's seat. Okay. So actually notice, like, oh, I'm doing that behavior. My leaves are showing. They can see the behavior that I'm doing, and I'm not really, throwing this person's birthday dinner because I desire to do it. I only feel valued when I'm working. Oh, I'm activated. I'm doing it again. I see my thought process now that I'm aware that that's a core belief that I have. Separate the belief from reality. Separate the belief from reality. The belief is that I am only worthy if I'm taking action. The reality is I am worthy as is. I can still take action because I'm good at what I do. But even if I'm not actively taking action, I'm still worthy. Separate the belief from the reality. Track the evidence that contradicts it. Again, it is deep down, it is deeply embedded into your psyche. And when you have a little bit of evidence, even on a daily basis, that contradicts it, it's easy for your brain and your mind to dismiss it. Oh, that's not important. That was a fluke. That was an individual circumstance. That's not really how the world works. But if you start to track it, you can keep a note in your phone, keep a note in your journal. If you start to track the times that it's contradicted, you'll start to notice the frequency of how well things are happening for you. Okay, it makes it easier for you to start to believe something different about yourself and other people and the world around you. Challenge those automatic thoughts. So you're so accustomed to the thoughts just popping up that, well, no, that's just how it is. But what if you just started to say, well, what if it wasn't that? What if it was different? What if I am worthy? What if I am loved? What if I'm not too much? What if my friends keep inviting me because they like my big personality? What if I'm not too much? Challenge the automatic thoughts. You don't always have to have the answer. That's not what we're looking for. But even just the practice of challenging them, it gets you out of the mindset of just going with it. Practice self-validation. I've said it a bunch of times and I'm gonna keep saying it. If you grew up in an environment that did not actively validate, it can be difficult because you don't know how to speak the language. You don't know exactly what to say to validate yourself. And so you might mean well, but you tend to just glaze right over that validation piece for other people. And it also means that you're glazing over it for yourself. So literally saying, wow, I can understand how I would feel this way. I could understand how that would be frustrating. I'm so sorry that I had to deal with that. That wasn't fair. I can totally understand why I would be thinking this way and acting this way based on certain experiences. Practice self-validation. I say it a bunch of times and I'm gonna keep saying it. A little validation goes a long way. A little validation for other people, but also self-validation. The ability to validate yourself when nobody is around, it definitely goes a long way. Consciously reduce the behaviors that reinforce the belief. The things that you are doing that reinforce the idea that you're worthless or you're inadequate, reduce those behaviors. Notice I didn't say stop. Nobody just stops cold turkey. That's not realistic. Okay. And even if we do stop, you have to replace the behavior with something else. So if we reduce the behaviors, just kind of slow down on it, it gives you realistically an opportunity to start to replace the old behaviors with new behaviors. And you can really start to synthesize this new way of being into who you are and into your everyday life while slowly reducing the other things that you used to do that weren't as healthy for you. Allow yourself to feel the underlying emotions. Again, if you find yourself trying to sit with emotions and you find it overwhelming, come talk to me. It's literally what I do, and I would love to do it with you. But allowing yourself to feel those underlying emotions will allow you to have more insight into why you have this core belief, and what you need to do in order to shift away from that core belief. Build relationships that contradict the belief. Okay. If you believe that, all women are catty and you can't be friends with women, slowly build relationships with people that contradict it. There is somebody out there that just wants to be your friend, right? It's not about being catty. It's not about being mean. It's not about competing with you. There's somebody out there that is rooting for you. So look for relationships that contradict it. If you feel like you're too much, look for the friend that's like, why are you so quiet? Aren't you usually A, B, and C? Look for and build relationships with anything, with money, with people, with opportunities that contradict that belief. And for the, I don't know, 50, 11 time today, seek therapy to process the original belief. Sit with a therapist. That is what we do. Sit with a therapist to talk out what is happening for you and what this feels like for you. And again, I'm currently accepting new clients and I would love to work with you. Um, Screenshot this and or come back to the recording, write this down. This is your homework assignment. I want you to actually put it into action. And this tree is in the shape of a heart because I just wanted to reshape our trees, right? I want to reshape the idea that we have about the world around us. So, in order to put it into action, again, screenshot this, save it for later. Oh, I can't see the time marker. I would have given you the time marker, but I can't see it. But I want you to write down on a piece of paper, identify your repeat behavior, identify your leaves. Okay, we're working backwards now. Identify the behavior that you notice in yourself that you want to change, or it's uncomfortable, or like, you know what? I'm noticing a pattern. I got to figure this thing out. Identify your repeat behavior. Okay. Next, list the thoughts and beliefs that support this. If you're saying, I'm noticing that I am overextending myself for my friend group, and I'm the same way with my family, and I'm the same way with my coworkers. I'm overextending myself in ways that it's not sustainable and I'm exhausted. Okay. And then the thoughts that support that belief. Well, what's my thought? My thought is, well, I have to do it. I have to do all the cooking. I have to do all the planning because nobody else is going to do it, or people aren't going to like me, or they're going to think that I'm not important. And then name the core belief about self, other people, and the world. Name it. What is driving that action? What is driving those beliefs? What is driving those thoughts? And what evidence do I have to counter this? Write it down. What evidence do I have to counter this belief that I have about myself? What phrases support a shift? What phrases support a shift? Thank you so much. The time marker is 50 minutes. So if you want to come back to the recording, the time marker is 50 minutes. What phrases support a shift? If I believe that the only way I'm going to be valuable is if I'm taking, and I mean overly taking action, what phrases support a shift? Well, they love me because I'm me and not because of my action. People love my heart and not just my hand. People do love my heart and not just my hand, right? Come up with phrases, ask your friends for phrases, Google phrases that support a shift in a different direction. If this belief wasn't true, how would I show up differently? If the belief that I'm only valuable when I'm overly showing up for people, if that was not true, how would I show up differently? Well, I think I would just come to the party with one dish. I wouldn't feel compelled to throw it. I wouldn't feel compelled to host it. I wouldn't feel compelled to, to do everybody else's work at the workshop. I wouldn't feel compelled to be overly. If this belief wasn't true, how would I show up differently and start to envision that? And then I want you to track the times that you take new action. I need you to see you're doing it. Sometimes people say, I'm trying, I'm trying. No, I need you to see every single time you are actively doing it and succeeding at shifting your behavior in a different direction. Okay, that is what I have for today. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much for joining me for the happy hour. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat. More than happy to answer any questions. And if not, I will see you next week for the happy hour.